healing for your home, the Redeemed Marriage Podcast.
Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. Rusty and Heather Bryant back with you again, and we are sliding in today to summer.
Yeah.
Because the last several years, I think we've kind of made our summer a little bit different because of scheduling and just also I think it's not just because of us. I know people out there in different rhythms as far as listening to podcasts and stuff. And so I don't want you guys to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get behind. I don't want, all the pressure to sit down and listen to a 30-minute podcast. And so we've just started for the last few summers doing what we call the summer shorts. Go ahead, Heather.
I've been looking forward to this for months.
Go.
Summer shorts, do 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 do. Summer shorts, do 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 do. Summer shorts, do 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 do. Summer shorts. Yay!
There needs to be a second verse. We've been doing this long enough where you should really have developed that.
Yes,
a lot better.
That's all I got.
Well, she really, when we decided we were going to do this, she goes, oh, can I do the song? You're more excited about the song than anything. But it is wedding week around here for us.
And today, when we're recording this, is Mother's Day.
It is Mother's Day,
it's
and you have
week.
your pretty Mother's Day dress on.
Thanks.
So, if you're not watching on YouTube, you should probably jump over there and watch on YouTube so you can see.
I actually wear dresses sometimes.
Heather looks great in her Mother's Day dress. And Friday is the wedding, so that's coming up in a few days. And then our busy summer starts, and so we just felt like it was time to go ahead and start the summer shorts.
Yeah.
Basically, what this means is we're going to pull out a question. We get questions from you guys all the time. And a lot of these questions are also coming from our mentoring group, and we kind of have a ongoing where they can ask questions because once a month we meet with our mentoring group, and we're able to have the group answer some questions. And we can't get to all of those, so we've kind of told them along the way that we'll answer some of those during our summer short series. But we also want you guys to know that you can kind of chime in and ask us questions. So however you want to ask questions, we're not going to do anything real formal like with sending you any kind of a link or anything like that. Just reach out to us. So you can do that through social media. You can DM us. You can go to our contact page on our website. Our website is theredeemedmarriage.com. So go there, ask us a question if you've got one. We may read your question and answer it on the air. And if we do, on the podcast. And if we do, it's not a live radio show.
Nor is it 1980.
It's not. But if we do that, then maybe we'll even send you a little nice gift.
Yeah, happy.
Not our mentoring group. Sorry, all of you guys are asking lots of questions, and so today let's just jump into a question because some of these are going to be a little bit longer. Some of them might not last quite as long. It just depends on how much we start getting into it.
Yeah, and pretty much last year we were like, it's summer shorts. They're going to be about 15 to 20 minutes, and most of the time they were 30.
Yeah,
but we'll try.
We'll see. Hey, before we jump into that, I did want y'all to know as we move into our summer schedule. Our summer is a little bit different because we have so much going on in the summer, and you guys do too. So we sort of take a break from the normalcy of marriage coaching and that sort of thing. Heather's still going to be doing some one-on-one, which she does not have her calendar ready yet, but we've had some other things that have been really busy.
It's happening.
But she'll have her calendar ready. So if anybody's interested in one-on-one coaching with Heather during the summer, just reach out to her and she'll send you her calendar once it gets done. My calendar is actually done, but people discovered it without me announcing it, and it started filling up. So just reach out to me if you need that link, and I'll send it to you. I don't have a ton of dates available, but I've got some. And we will start back marriage coaching in August, and we already have all of our dates set from August all the way up to Christmas. And so we're on top of it.
That was a you.
That's right. Well, there's no way you think that far ahead in life.
Are on top of it. We, not so much.
That's right. So we're telling you this because if you're somebody that has considered marriage coaching, you want to jump in on that, don't wait, because really we do the spots are fairly, they're not limited. We do a lot of marriage coaching, but they go pretty fast. So please don't wait. We would love to get some new couples in on marriage coaching in the fall. So reach out to us. We'll send you that link, and then you can just go ahead and start scheduling your sessions.
All right, today's
okay, let's do it.
What
Sorry,
is today's question?
I guess you're trying to get me to quit
No,
rambling.
I'm not. I'm just trying to keep it short. Because
you're
you
trying to
told
keep
them it was going to be short.
I know, but we had to catch up. Okay, that's only
Okay.
5 minutes of catch up. People
okay.
like to catch up. It's like they're sitting
Okay,
around and here's our summer short. This question was directed at you, and it basically asked the question: if the roles had been reversed.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know our story, Heather confessed to unfaithfulness almost 15 years ago, and so the question is, if the roles had been reversed, how would you have handled things?
Yeah. So you did. Sometimes you don't even tell me the topic before we get on here, but you did tell me because it was addressed to me. And, all of you heard me go, a while ago, because this is a hard one. Matter of fact, I've read this one before and kind of avoided it because I know with 100% certainty that I would not have handled it as well as you did. But there's a reason for that. 15 years ago, when I confessed to being unfaithful, I was not in a good spot with the Lord. Like, my relationship with the Lord was not in a good place. I had a ton of head knowledge, but no relationship there. And so when I think about 15 years ago, if you had told me, if you had come to me and said you had been unfaithful, that you had had an affair, I don't think that I would have handled it as well because I didn't have that relationship with the Lord that you did at that time, and where you were really leaning in and trusting Him. I would have very much trusted myself and tried to handle it on my own. And I can look back 15 years ago and see how you were very, even you talking about the first couple of nights, and honestly, the first several weeks, and how you heard from the Lord saying, I'm asking, or you have permission to leave, but I'm asking you to stay. Every time I hear you say that, it makes me in awe of your relationship with the Lord during that season, where I think I would have, and I know you were angry. You've told that story before. You were angry at the Lord. Like, why me? Like, I do nothing. I try with everything in me. You were trying with everything in you to serve Him and to lead well and to be a godly dad and to be a godly husband. So why you? Like, why did that happen to you? And so I know that you were angry, but you handled that anger with grace, and you handled it well in a God-honoring way. Whereas I think that I would have been so angry that would have even pushed me further away from the Lord. So instead of leaning in, I probably would have even run further from my relationship with Him. Now, obviously, I don't know that. That is me putting myself back into 15 years ago, Heather. How would I have handled it? Now, when I think about what if that happened now, where I am in my relationship with God, and how my dependence is on Him, and how my worth is on Him, and my value is in Him. If it happened now, I think I would be able to handle it a lot better and try to honor the Lord with my decisions more than I would have 15 years ago. So the question, even though I wish I could say, oh yeah, I would have done the same thing. I would have handled it with grace and taken you back and fought for our marriage. I think the way Heather was 15 years ago, I would have gone straight into just selfishness, into you hurt me, so I will in return hurt you. And if I had stayed, I would have just vowed to make you miserable for the rest of your life. And you did just the opposite. You didn't rub it in my face. You didn't bring it up all the time. You did this. Well, you did this, and kind of use it as the trump card or a bargaining chip or anything like that. And I think that I was not very mature, especially spiritually mature, to where I think I would have totally done that to you. So, honesty policy, hate to confess it, but
it's
for
not,
sure.
I mean, obviously people are listening and they're like, well, it's not really a fair question, because when people come to us, they usually come to us because the situation has already happened.
That's right.
And so what we are trying to do, because we want every marriage to experience reconciliation and redemption like ours. And so we know what it can be. And so that's why we coach people to handle it and do it this way. And I also think that, there's things that we learned throughout the process, ways that we did things right, ways that we messed things up, and we're able to share those and journey along with people and point them towards hope and say, look, this can be better than it ever was before. But nobody comes to us really with the questions other than, and really we don't even deal with this that much, but like in premarital counseling, I guess you could maybe talk about it. But nobody comes and says, hey, we want to talk to y'all because we want to know what we should do. If
we want to be prepared.
We want to be prepared if one of us has an affair.
Right.
What are we going to, what should we do?
That's right. Nobody says that because nobody goes into marriage thinking it's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I really think that, even by you saying, if it happened now, like that's such a warped thought because of what we know now. Like I wouldn't even want you to think like that. Like I wouldn't even want you to go, if you did this, I would probably be able to handle it. No, because we've journeyed through it. And so where I think the biggest difference, or the big part of this question from my side of it, is what would have been different if we had been mature enough and transparent and open and honest and been able to talk about things in a healthy way, where we could have said, hey, we need to acknowledge that this is something that could happen to us.
Yeah, that's good.
Because the enemy is real. He's always tempting us. So if we're both aware, but I think that even when it would come up almost in a joking way, like, I mean, we would say, oh, we would never do that. I would never do that.
Or we would see it happen to other people and be super judgy. Like, how could they
do that? And if you ever did that to me, I would
kill you, or
I'd
leave
hurt you,
or
cut things off and stuff like that, And I mean, but we would. I think we would joke about it, sort of, but we would never just go, man, this is a real part of a lot of marriages. And I think we never acknowledged it, and we never acknowledged and admitted it's something that could happen to anybody.
That's right.
Because you don't want to admit that you could fall into that temptation and follow through with it.
We've said before, and I want to say this again, that the moment you say it'll never happen to us, you're opening the door for the enemy.
Right.
Because he's out to prove you wrong and to kill and destroy your marriage. And so by saying, oh, it won't ever happen to us, you're just kind of saying my guard's not up because it's never going to happen to me.
Well, I just wonder if if we had discussions like that, where we knew we were on the same team, we were fighting for each other, knowing that, the world's going to always throw things at us and we need to support each other. Like, I would have lived life differently because I do now. I live life very differently. It's when there's stuff that's thrown at me, I can quickly turn my attention, turn my eyes, don't look at that, don't entertain that thought, because I know where it can lead.
That's right.
But we didn't acknowledge that back then.
It's kind of like people who have either parents or grandparents that are alcoholics, or they've seen what alcohol can do to somebody, maybe a friend, then they are very, very cautious. It's like, I don't even know if I want to have a glass of wine because I've seen what it can do.
Right.
Or I don't know if I want, maybe one beer is enough, but I'm not going to have more than that because I've seen how it can destroy lives. And so it's almost just, and it doesn't have to be a parent. I'm talking about use us as your example, like a godly couple that grew up in church and was there even had a parent that was a staff member, or two parents actually that were staff members at one time. If it can happen to them, it can happen to anybody. So let me put some boundaries up and let me be on guard. And so it's just kind of using the example and seeing the picture of it can happen, admitting that it can happen, and going from there. Because I think about if I had even been able to express thoughts to anybody, not even just you,
Right.
but if we had just acknowledged that it could happen to us, I think that just admitting that would open up a whole path of conversation, maybe not to you, but to a best friend or a mentor or somebody where it's like, hey, I was having these thoughts of what life would be like if I'd gotten married to somebody else. And I know those are not from the Lord. And or this picture was sent to me and I feel very uncomfortable with this. And so I need to talk about this with somebody. But I couldn't talk about that with anyone, or the enemy made me believe that I couldn't talk about that with anyone because everybody I knew was perfect.
Yeah, and I think that's the big part. That's what I was thinking this whole time, is that they're just like our example. We couldn't see other couples and go, oh, they've been through this, so we've got to be careful. Like it was, really, I think everybody was just
quote perfect.
Yeah, and I just think about the ones that you had heard that happen to. You kind of would just judge it and go, oh, yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Their marriage was probably a wreck. But like when there's real couples out there or family members, that you find out go through that, you just look at life so much differently. And that's why I think it's so important that people like us are able to share our story publicly, because it was a public thing, and I'm thankful for that. I really am. I'm glad that I'm not glad when we were going through it,
I know.
but now I just know that that's given us that platform to be able to share with people, so people can look and go, there's an example, there's hope. And so I just want to make sure that people understand and recognize that it can happen to anybody. And so acknowledge that. And then, maybe the whole point of this is that if you're able to talk about it, that it won't happen because you talk about it. And part of that is that you're saying, hey, if this happens, like this is biblical grounds for divorce, and we don't have to fight for our marriage. And that's just it's not a threat, and it's not this is going to be the consequence if it happens. But I do think that there's some sort of an acknowledgement of, hey, this isn't going to happen in our relationship.
Right.
And if it does, I won't stick around for it.
Right.
But then again, you guys also have to realize that until you have walked through you don't know what God's going to tell you to do, how you're going to handle it. And so for those of you that come at us on social media and you tell us the whole no way, once a cheater, always a cheater, and you throw all of that back at us, you have no idea.
That's right. And even if you do have an idea because you've walked through it, your spouse may have responded differently, and God may have spoke to them differently than he did to us.
Yep.
And that's the part, because it's not just about marriage. It is about every season of life and everything that you see in other people's lives. You cannot possibly judge them or say how you would handle it differently, or that you don't agree with how they're handling it until you have walked through it. I see that in parenting. I see that in marriages. I see that in friendships. Like, oh, well, no, you don't know because you haven't been there. And so that's why we try so hard to live just with grace and not judging other people in how they do something or how they walk through something, because you don't know until you have actually walked through it. And then even if you walk through the same circumstance, it's different because you're different people and you're in and you have different relationships with the Lord and what that looks like. So I just, when you were talking earlier about how you would, you don't want to talk about if it happened now and kind of that being a warped train of thought. I think what I know to be true and why it's okay for me to go there in my head of how I would handle it is because the God that I fell in love with 15 years ago and have been growing in relationship with every day since then, I know to be a God that will walk me through whatever circumstance comes my way. And I do not believe for any reason would you ever repeat my sin and be unfaithful on me. But no matter what it is that we walk through, we've walked through cancer together. We have walked through a wayward child together. We have walked through, we're fixing to enter into a beautiful new season of having a new daughter-in-law in 5 days. And what I know to be true is no matter what season we walk through, the good seasons, the bad seasons, the scary seasons, the exciting seasons, that our God is faithful. And so would I handle it differently now? Absolutely, because I know who my God is. And I know that he will carry me through it. So I just want our listeners to know that if you're walking through this right now, if infidelity is part of your story right now, that God is faithful. He is absolutely by your side. You are a child of the King. You are a daughter or a son of the Most High God, and he adores you. And you're not in this alone. But if you haven't walked through this, continue to pray for your marriage and pray for your spouse and be open and honest about everything that is going on and talk about it. Like Rusty said, prepare for it. Like, say, hey, we don't need to pretend that this can't be part of our story. So what are we going to do to make sure that we have the right boundaries up and that we are making sure that we are not saying it's not going to happen to us? It's different than living in fear of it happening to you. Because I've talked about that before. I've gone through breast cancer. There are lots of things that happen that I go, oh, my head hurts, or oh, my back hurts. I hope that's not cancer. I could jump in that pit in a minute and be like, oh, I have cancer and woe is me. But it's not that. It's trusting God and saying, you know what, I'm going to be aware. I'm not going to be dumb and not go to doctors. I'll go and see my oncologist every year like I'm supposed to. And I keep an eye on my numbers and I do the blood work, but I don't live in fear. It's just an awareness versus being fearful.
And the thing that all of that was so powerful and so well said. And the thing that makes me really sad, or when one spouse reaches out and they say, yeah, I want to fight for my marriage, but my spouse is not, my spouse has left, or my spouse is how do I do this? And that's the sad part is that our story would have been really different if you had not had full repentance and really fallen in love with Jesus again. And I think that's the thing that people get so hung up on. They're like, I'm doing everything I can, and y'all keep saying to have hope, and you keep saying that God can redeem, but what about my spouse? Your spouse still has a choice.
That's right.
And that's the thing that's so heartbreaking in this, because without your spouse repenting, then you can't have restoration.
That's right.
And so you continue to pray for that. You continue to do your part, but you also recognize that you can't fix your spouse, and you leave that to God. And if it never happens, if they're never fixed, if they never repent, it's not because God quit trying. It's just because they continually rejected and rejected and rejected. And that's not on you, and that's not on God.
That's right.
So don't forget that.
Yep.
Guys, we just want to give you hope. And so that's why we talk about these things. And so please know that there is hope, that God is in your story. He's still writing your story, and He wants to write a story of redemption. So trust that. All right, guys.
If you listen to this before Friday, pray for our son and our future daughter-in-law on Friday.
Yep.
It's a special time.
Big week coming up. All right.
Love
Thanks
you
for
guys.
listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.